And from that front page, which had to do with the Punch, talking about fuel price to be on the rise, well, there are indications of a rise in the prices of refined petroleum products across Africa. Countries such as Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria aren't left out. This is as a result of the Russia-Ukraine war, which has caused a hike in the prices of crude and coupled with instability in the exchange market. According to industry figures this week, the cost of Brent, the crude against which Nigeria's oil is priced, rose above 133 barrel per dollar. That's very, very high. You could say $133 per barrel. And the commodity had traded below $90 per barrel before the war in Ukraine started.
Oil marketers say that the rise has pushed up the cost of automotive gas oil, popularly called diesel, Jet A1, otherwise called aviation fuel, as well as premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. And findings show that diesel sold for between 550 Naira to 625 Naira per litre in the few fuel stations that dispense the commodity. Now, I can tell you for one, yesterday I went to about 10 fuel stations to get this same commodity diesel, and I could barely find any. Last week we had diesel being sold for 440 Naira per litre, but this week now we're talking about 550 to 625 Naira per litre. Now, to make sense of all of this, joining us on Breakfast Central this morning is energy and petroleum analyst Desmond Agboifo. He's an energy expert, also the director of Dayston Energy. Many thanks for joining the program, Desmond. Now, we've seen what's going on around the world. We know what factors really affecting the crude, that's the oil, crude oil in the nation, Africa, and even beyond the continent of Africa. But diesel, unlike PMS, we know has been deregulated, subsidy has been removed, but yet we seem to find it quite difficult to get that commodity. Can you bring us up to speed as to what's going on in that sector?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me this morning. It's such an unprecedented situation as a country, and I think the first premise would be for us to even look at what really affects the price of diesel. And I mean, it's very clear that the diesel market is always a front burner of our energy consumption in the country, and it's been saddled with huge economic and even geopolitical issues around. First of all, we can see that, of course, the recent tension between the Russian and the Ukrainian continent has really propagated a lot of demand for oil, and the demand currently sits around just above $100 a barrel. I think $132 a barrel just as of yesterday. And we've also seen that there's certain issues that drive this diesel market in Nigeria. So, for example, we've seen that the cost of crude as purchased by refiners are also drivers, and even the cost of distributions and even the retail station costs. Agreed with your point. The diesel market is really currently very, very regulated, and also compared with the PMS, which is also an issue of with the subsidy issues and things like that. But yes, this is the current reality of the country. But I think what is key for us is to be able to work towards our transitions program faster, and also put context into our investments in the oil and gas sector. So, of course, trying to put back the refineries in place so that we can be able to, have that access of leveraging our current consumption and even driving the costs really down. I think the key issue we have here is the issue of the failing refining in the country.
All right, Desmond, Nigeria is an oil-rich nation and has refineries that are not producing anything. But why have they not been sold or engaged in a public-private partnership agreement for more efficient management?
Well, thank you. The capacity for the country's refining for the crude oil, I think one point has to be very clear. It's a national asset. It won't be advisable to put that within the public space for partnership or for just direct disposal. It's an asset that the country owns, and our best advice would be it should be managed. I mean, part of the strategy is to ensure that we optimize this asset as an oil producing nation is to have our refining capacity up to speed. And just last year, there's a report that came out from the PwC, just looking at our capacity as a country, and on average, we do about just 25% of our actual plant capacity in the refining sector, which is really low for a country that has about 200 million people. That said, it's also clear that we also need to do a lot more. I mean, we see the Dangote refining coming up speed. I think sometime coming in perhaps now to the end of the year, and the plan is to drive our capacity up to about 600,000 barrels addition per day in the refining capacity. So yes, these are trying times, but it's not out of order to expect even better. I mean, we've seen in the last few years, we've suffered so much in our capacity to import refined product, which come at a premium for the Nigerian people to pay. And what's also even clear is from now to the next 5 years, it's been projected that we'll be seeing about 11 active refineries coming into the picture, which will also increase our capacity to refine and potentially drive the cost of refining down.
Right, that's in 5 years' time, and that's a prediction talking about refineries being effective. The ones we have on ground are barely efficient. That's just even putting it lightly. But now looking at the situation of things when it comes to petrol, Nigeria is not the only one feeling the pinch. Now in South Africa, the cost of 1 liter of petrol goes as high as 610 Naira to a liter. And in America, as we speak, the cost of buying 1 liter of petrol goes as high as 570 Naira per liter. Now, we don't understand that business owners are the ones feeling the pinch of this price hike, and the government seems to be powerless, especially in Nigeria here, where the downstream sector, where diesel is being deregulated. I mean, subsidy has been removed. But the big question a lot of people are wondering is, where do we go from here? How do we resolve the situation in total?
Okay, thank you. I think to address your question very deliberately, I think it's best that we set it in context very clearly. First of all, as I said earlier, we have to fix the refineries. See, there's no point for us to have assets that will not drive value in the country. And the second point I want to raise is we have to also increase our capacity to produce. We've seen with the issues of the current vandalism in the South, and even very low capital injections just within the country's oil and gas industry. That also has, a knock-on effect on why we're not even doing as much as we want to do. Case in point, we've seen the Bonga Southwest has been delayed for quite a while now. It's past the FID stages. But I mean, these are issues that we have to grapple with as a country. And positively on that side of that, we've seen that the PIA has just been signed sometime last year. And I think that's even a green light for us to, of course, increase our capacity on our reserves to about 40 billion barrels, and also increase our ultimate productions to about 4 million barrels a day. So as soon as, these issues are cleared off, I think we'll have a right environment to thrive. And the last point I want to raise, just to take us from where we are now to where I want to be, is to adopt best practices in corporate planning, and also ensure that we have the frameworks in place to make sure that we manage our assets as a country. Everywhere in the world where oil is produced, they have a very rigorous and a very robust resource management system, which is driven by the government. So I don't see any reason why that will be an exception to Nigeria. And part of our plans is to be able to drive these efforts. In fact, coming next 2 weeks, we're having a program where we start building Nigeria from here to there. So working toward the PIA and also trying to see how that will impact investors, so as to increase the confidence that investors would have. And that will also bring about a knock-on effect in our economic value for our oil and gas industry. So there are issues, but I think they are doable when we put all our hands on deck.
All right, now the pandemic and the ongoing war has also cost a lot. It has cost us not just Nigeria, but the continent and other countries as well. But thank you so much for your insight on this story. Desmond Agboifo, you are an energy and petroleum analyst. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me, and you have a wonderful day.